So I want to talk a little bit about expectations, and I'm curious about, when you mentioned like they want to, they don't need all of the information, I think, because they trust you more. But how are you setting expectations with homeowners, right? How do you sort of, when a new property comes on, what does that sort of look like? And how does that conversation go?
Well, for us, I live by the motto, clear as kind. Nobody who has a vacation rental in Cannon Beach is going to run with buckets of cash to the bank every month. Um, I mean, they're going to do okay, but it's not an investment property. So setting up the proper expectations for them to understand the one reservation per 14 days, for them to understand the summer is a lot busier than the winter's gonna be. We lay all of that out right at the beginning. I'm in process now of making a homeowner handbook, like an employee handbook, but for the homeowners, that I think will even help more with managing expectations. This is what to expect. This is, what turnover looks like. This is just anything that I can think of is going to go in there. That way they can't have these big, huge dreams of things that aren't going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've done a similar thing in Arizona to manage a property, whether you're long term or vacation. You have to be a licensed realtor, so we are, and that helps us with a more well-rounded look at how we look at properties and how we look at the whole investment. But also, we do the same thing, Sandie. That we have an onboarding process that we actually give them a handout, which we can email them or they can actually have a copy of, but it takes them through the steps of the onboarding so they know kind of what's going to happen, when the pictures are taken, when they need to do this. And then when after that onboarding's done, then they get me, which is I have another tutorial that I take them through that is basically now what, my property's live, now what. And so
Yeah.
it takes you on a journey, if you will, on how things work, how we manage your home. And I think it's very important because there's a lot of questions come up from owners about things that are in this guide. Before we did it, we got a lot of questions about, well, what happens when this happens? What do you do if there's damages? Who pays for that? That's always what they want to know. So we laid it out and I'm happy to share that. But it does help them to already have all this information. You can put it together however you want. I do it through Canva. Canva is a free, great tool that makes it look professional. But you take your own style and kind of put it in, and based on what your owners want and based on what they're asking for, and then you give them a guide that helps them to know what's coming and what to expect. And I think that's really important.
Well, for us, there are really, in our area, there are two types of owners. There's your familiar owners, like you talk about, the second family homes, the families who come and visit and they say, wow, it'd be great to have a property here that we can stay at when we vacation, and maybe one day it'll be paid off and we can retire here. They have a whole different set of communication needs. They have more of a subjective emotional need, right?
Mhm.
They focus on the money, but it's more on property care, property condition, and things like that. We also have a tremendous number of investment owners, and they're completely different. They're all about the ROI. So, when I'm talking with prospective owners who are thinking about joining us, or property owners that are with us, I set a different expectation. Maybe it's because my background prior to this, I spent a long time in the investment and securities world. And so I dealt with a lot of high net worth people. And I want to set the expectation, especially with investor owners, is that, past history is no guarantee of future performance. How many times have we heard that in the investment world? And they have pie in the sky ideas of what their ROI or cap rate and other things are on a property, not knowing that the market is depressed or the supply demand curve is inverted, or other economic influences, right? So I have to have that discussion with them. And then I also have to have a discussion perhaps with that familial owner saying, do you really have the risk tolerance to be a short-term vacation rental. What
Right.
happens if something breaks? What happens if somebody does damage to your property? Are you going to fall apart? Are you going to feel personally violated because of this? Or are you going to take it in stride and say, look, that's just the cost of doing business kind of thing? So it's setting a different level of expectation, not just communication, how I communicate, when I communicate, in what mode, when my reps are going to be available, but what kind of owner are you going to be? What are your expectations for the property, and setting those as well? I think that is really, really important, especially in those who are listening in your markets, that you have a lot of investment owners, because if you don't set that expectation up front, and part of quality communication is sending out a market report to them, because that's what they're used to with their investment advisor, right? They're used to getting those type of higher level reports. So be prepared to think about crafting those for those owners as well.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, I think you hit a big point there, right? How you interact with second homeowners and how you interact with investor homeowners is very different. And I think understanding the goals of all of your owners is also very important, right? Does somebody care about how much revenue, or do they just want to make sure that it's being used and they can pay that mortgage, right? Like understanding what that looks like, and their risk aversion is very important. And I think that, I want to make sure that we hit on this, because there've been a couple of questions around navigating difficult conversations, and how you avoid, I think how you avoid misunderstanding oftentimes starts with the expectations that you set at the initial onboarding and throughout the relationship. But Sandie, you also talked about well, I guess you alluded to it, and I kind of took it to the next place around trust, right? And so how do you guys manage those tough conversations?
I can take that one.
Well,
Go ahead,
for
Sandie.
us, again, the clearest kind. We're very upfront about what's happening. When we go to their homes, I work really hard on making personal connections with them. Oh my God, they have a dog. Oh, we're gonna swap dog stories. Oh, I see this art. I love it. I try to find something with every homeowner that I can connect on a personal basis with them. A lot of our homeowners, I feel, are my friends now, and they feel the same way about me. I talk about how long I've been in this area since I was 9, how I raised my kids here, how being here and being able to share this amazing community with others is my passion. I want them to know that I'm in it for the right reasons, and our company is owned by 3 amazing people who put their whole heart and soul and body into the company. When they learn how we are and how we care and how we treat our employees is another huge one. We pay for all of our full-time employees' insurance. We cook hot dogs twice a week during the summertime. Letting them know the family that we are helps build that trust and connection, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's you touched on another point, which I think is really interesting, right? And this has come up in conversations that I've had previously, specifically around managing homeowners and managing homeowner expectations, which is around your employees and how they treat your employees, and setting those boundaries. And Kevin, you mentioned this earlier, but I'd love to see if you might be able to expand a little bit on, creating that scenario in which your team has that work-life balance, right? These are often, I think you shared a funny story about that when we talked last time, but these are often people who are used to not being told no in many scenarios of their life. And so how do you maintain that relationship with them while maintaining the work-life experience and the work-life balance for your team?
Well, unlike Sandie, and I can't speak for Heidi, I've tried to coach my team that I want them to be a trusted advisor to their owner. I don't necessarily want them to be bosom buddies with them. I want them to be the trusted advisor so that when an owner asks for something, they get the right answer the first time. Because a lot of times we get properties from other management companies, they just weren't given the right answer. They were given multiple answers. I want them to be the trusted advisor for an advocate for their owner. I just have that hard and I have that hard discussion with the owners up front. Say, look, this is how we operate. And if your expectation is that you're going to text one of my people at 10 o'clock at night, you will not get an answer till the next morning. And if you call them at night, or if you're in some way abusive to them because you think that you can browbeat your way into getting to the front of the line or getting to the answer you want, if you abuse my people, I'm going to delist you. Okay, I want to do business with people that want to do business with us in a professional, courteous way, because that's the way we're always going to treat you. So listen, I call it the three-legged stool. It's got to be right for you as the owner. It's got to be whether it's going to meet your objectives, whether it's your family's place or your money or whatever. It's got to be right for the guests. They need a good value for their vacation in a quality location that they can be happy and make good memories, but it also has to be good for us. And if any of those three legs wobble, it's not good for anybody. And I'm not going to shove a square peg in a round hole just for unit count. I'm just not going to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, we have the same expectations of our owners that they know what they're getting into, and what our role is. But I find that by educating them and having that knowledge right at the tip of your fingertips whenever they ask is important, because then they have more faith in you, they have more faith in your company, and they know that they're going to get an answer. I think we have people come from other companies. They always tell me, the biggest problem I had was communication. I didn't know, number one, who I was supposed to talk to. Number two, they never called me back. They never followed through. It would be days later, or they didn't have an answer and they said they'd get back to me and then gave me this vague answer. So I think education is, and I come from an education background, I find that really helps, to let the owner know up front what the expectations are. But keep educating them as you go. And like Kevin said, there's different types of owners that you need to do that with. We have investors as well as people that want to move into their home in retirement, and there's others that have their family home. The short story of a difficult situation was we had this owner that was they're booked. But they're booked by the same people every year, and their home is older. It's very dated, and we wanted to try to get them up to getting more income by updating some things. And it was really difficult because there was a lot of emotional attachment there. It was their parents' home that they now are in their grandchildren are enjoying, so it's really hard to approach that. But what we did is a team of us went there and we actually looked at the safety issues. There were some things that needed to happen to make it more safe and maybe bring it up to the technology standards. So we started there, and we realized that when we did that, everyone was enjoying it, even the homeowner. So by the time we did that, then we started moving on to other things, like lamp, or fixtures that were outdated, tired looking, and we got similar looking lamp fixtures that worked, and they agreed to it. So you have to kind of find out where you're coming from with that owner, how to approach that owner the best way that you can, whether it's from the emotional side, the financial side, like Kevin was saying, are they an investor? Do they love this home and you're stepping on it if you put anything down? There's a way to get through to owners if they want to be successful in this business.
Well, I think, I think you mentioned this earlier, Heidi, around reviews, right? And so prior to joining Breezeway, I spent 7+ years at Flipkey and TripAdvisor, right? And we talked a lot about reviews. And I remember so often, folks saying, I've been telling the homeowner that they need to replace the bed for months, and now all of a sudden there's 2 reviews about it and a new bed's arriving tomorrow, right? And so I think it's education, but it's also about like helping them understand, Kevin, you mentioned it at one point as well, the market dynamics, what's going to rent, what's not going to rent, making sure that they understand maybe why their ADR isn't where it needs to be, or their occupancy isn't as high as maybe some other properties that they're seeing on your websites. Right. And it is about educating them in a way that also meets their need. Right. Because you could come at somebody with like a lot of data and facts, and they're going to be like, I want my best friend, right? Like I want the person that I can connect with and have that relationship with. And I'm sure, you're still having those hard conversations, but I know that, it drives that opportunity to, it drives the opportunity to make sure that we're hitting people in the right way. There is a question in here, which I think is interesting, and I don't know the answer to, so I'm really interested to hear if it's the same across all of your companies or if it varies. Janine has asked, do you have your owners contact different departments for the action they want to take, right? If they're calling to make a reservation, do they go through reservations? If are they going to like submit an issue like a normal guest would, or is everything flowing through either, Heidi and Sandie, in your case, you guys, or Kevin, someone on your team?
For us, it's our homeowner email.
Okay.
It's just one spot and it works really, really well.
Yeah, we do that too. We have one main email that everybody sends everything to, and then it's attached to whoever it would be for. But I also have a personal email that owners know, and they come directly to me.
But you guys, Kevin?
Yeah,
Same?
we're a lot the same way. Obviously, all of us have the ability to enter a work order into Breezeway. All of us have an opportunity to send something into our housekeeping managers and other people. So we do that pretty well.
But your homeowners are all coming to you, and then you guys are.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the pointy end of the stick is always our owner rep, and then they just, they triage the problem and they come up with the right team for the solution, and then they dispatch it or dispose of it to whichever department needs to be, and then they generate a follow-up. Hey, did you do this? So I can report back to my homeowner that it was done.
That closing of the loop is imminently.
Yes.
And I think it's, another thing we used to hear a lot is my homeowners don't know about most of the work that I'm doing, right? Heidi, like you said, they think I was there once a year because they get the semi-annual, or twice a year because they get a semi-annual report. But I'm in that house every week, or I'm in that house every week, and they don't know that I'm there, and I don't have any documentation that I'm there. And so when something goes wrong, it's all on me, even though I've been doing all the right steps. And so I think like, whether it's through $0 work orders, whether it's through like inspection reports and things like that, making sure that you're communicating the work that you're doing is really important.
Well, yeah, especially if you're going to be sending out the Breezeway owner reports, you should put it in there that you were there, regardless of what it was for. Quick visit, or did a after guest inspection, whatever it is. Put that in. If you're going to send those out, it'll show up on this list for them.